What does the DA have to say about government and also critically the issue of professionalizing the civil service?
Well, one of the most important things is to make sure that government's accountable, and for that reason we have a number of policy measures proposed, including in modifying the electoral system to make MPs more accountable. We think that we should have a standalone professional civil service that can be non-partisan in terms of party politics and do the job and do it professionally. We believe that we should strengthen anti-corruption units by providing more funding to public institutions that fund anti-corrupt activities. That should be strengthened also through the judicial system. What we principally need is accountable government, efficient government, and professional government.
And the possibility of a constitutional amendment. I mean, you're talking about the issue of giving more powers to the, decentralizing power, aren't you?
Well, I think we don't necessarily need constitutional amendments. Anti-corruption bodies needs to be strengthened so that they can be far more exacting, and we need greater honesty in terms of government. And so there's certainly more laws can be passed. We should stop politicians and their families from benefiting from tenders, for example. Those can all be done through regulation, and it can be done through very tough leadership.
But the electoral system would have to change to allow for direct election of
right, but the Constitution doesn't limit the electoral system. All it says, it must be proportional. It must be organized in such a way that it gives everybody an opportunity to participate. That will require change in the law to have the electoral system become more constituency-based.
Right, let's go to land. You talk about shifting focus from the issue of target-based land reform to one that is needs-based. What are you talking about?
Well, what we are talking about is making sure that state land is released for land reform purposes. We are talking about making sure that people who use the land are fully supported so that they can turn land usage into productive land usage, and therefore they need support in the area of agriculture and agricultural services. And we need a much more efficient system of settling restitution claims and settling any kind of controversy over who owns what. So clearly there's a lot of South Africans that should get access to land. A very important part of that is to make sure that they get legal title to that land. There's a lot of land in communal areas where people don't have ownership, and therefore they can't leverage the land in order to get greater assets. So it has to become more democratic, more efficient, and the state is just been, the current state under the ANC has been extremely slow in making sure that people actually get access to an asset that they ought to have access to.
So you wouldn't have targets, say transfer of land to historically dispossessed people, this percentage by 2019, for example?
No, I think it's very important to have targets. To have a target, you need some land audit. We haven't had a land audit yet. So you need, as a managerial tool, you will need that target. We won't set the target. But clearly people who have been dispossessed unjustly, that's a land restitution process, and they're trying to reopen it right now. So to the extent that it's reopened, it has to be properly managed in a way that doesn't threaten our food security, for example. So that's the first point. And the second point is that we have to make the land ownership issue far more diverse. And so certainly transfer land into black-owned hands is something that should be done properly and efficiently and quickly.
Dr. James, on a few occasions we saw situations that even you would have to admit we're not putting the party in good light. For example, you guys voting in favor of the Black Economic, the triple BEE bill in the National Assembly, and then doing a turnaround in the National Council of Provinces and the ensuing debate there, where it seemed that the party leadership was at odds in terms of what exactly is the DA policy. Does this manifesto give you that chance to consolidate the message? Is everyone on board on the messages that you are sending here?
Well, we already had a policy conference at the end of last year where we settled all those, whatever differences there are, and settled the ambiguities that crept in around employment equity, for example. So now we have a firm position on all of those key issues around land reform, around BEE, and what the manifesto does, it articulates our message in a way that's absolutely clear. And it's evidence of our commitment, and it's a commitment that has been thoughtfully gone through. As you can see in the manifesto, it's very, very detailed in what these our commitments are, and the public certainly have the duty to hold us to account for what it is we say in terms of what we deliver.
Something critical in our country, and as a final question to you, Dr. Wilmot James, the issue of labor policy. I see that you mention it in your jobs plan and also in your manifesto that you would need a labor policy that supports economic growth. Could you break it down? Are you talking about making it more difficult for people to declare strikes, to go out on strikes? And this is part of what your critics are saying, that your policies seem to favor business, the private individuals who own the economy at the moment.
Well, you see, what our nation needs they need more jobs. And in order to have more jobs, there has to be flexibility in terms of how the state intervenes in the market, including in the labor market. Trade unions have the obligation to serve their members, so we understand that they serve people already employed. But trade unions must begin to think about the unemployed in how they conduct their politics. The flexibility we're talking about in the labor market is not to call into question any of the constitutional rights that workers and employees have. They clearly have those rights and they must exercise those rights, and we honor them in that exercise. But what's also important is to ensure that we don't go on strike on the whim, and therefore we have a proposal that there has to be a strike ballot. That is, members of a union must vote on whether to go on strike or not, and that must be compulsory, so that it's simply not done by the leadership and the members follow.
Know more about your world. eNCA.com